What a huge and exciting show I have for you today. You will not believe what's happened in the last 48 hours since we last broadcast this show. Artist Journal, January 5th, 2023, broadcasting from Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and a massive shout out to everybody who came to the Twitter Spaces. I'm getting very bullish on that show. Runetune is brilliant at co-hosting that show, and the total all-star cast that showed up and that spoke there. So I'm really excited and happy with how that went, and that goes out, I need to still figure things out as far as logistics as I start this kind of spaces the last few weeks. But that'll go out to Spotify, and so that'll go out to a whole other audience. So it could be just really exciting. So, and I was thinking, I'm thinking people that come up on stage, I think maybe they should be able to post to work, because they're contributing to the show, right? So it's kind of like everybody gets paid in their own way, even if it's just kind of a little self-promotion. Because you've shared your thoughts, I think, why not shouldn't you have a link or something to a recent work or something you've done, so that people, and there's a lot of people that are on their desktop that can't even talk, but if they're on their desktop, they can just click really easily, and they're the people who are kind of ready to buy right now and then. So anyways, that was a ton of fun, and I'm just so happy and excited. Look at this. So back to the last 48 hours. This work is deceptive, first of all. I saw it, I thought, oh, nice myth. And I was looking at the edition number, and I was like, okay, no rush. Then I looked at it again this morning, and I brought it up big here. Let me just adjust. I brought it up big, or I took a look again this morning, and you see these details here? You just see for lack of a better term, the brushwork, the noise in here. I'm tempted to think this is a combination of Microsoft Paint and Procreate, but maybe it's just Procreate. Look at the guitar, the brushwork, the textures, the beauty. Okay? Look at this. Myth is adjusting very nicely to Procreate. There's definitely, these little lines here, and it looks like a kind of Robert Johnson type thing, blues, which we were discussing actually earlier. And there's another part that I want to highlight here too, and this brilliant sky. And Myth is always kind of brilliant with the sky. The color, the clouds, this beautiful horse running. But back to the sky, I was making a coffee back there, and this was on the screen, and I took a look again, and I was like, look at this crazy sky. The white cloud here, and then there's the Argentinian flag, and almost like the sun here, but instead of a sun, we get the Myth mask. To me, it's almost like words like folk hero, a folk hero of the visual arts, so to speak, starts to cross my mind when I see this. And this man, this Myth character playing the guitar feels to me like Myth in action, making his art. Again, attempting to call this a modern day classic. There's nothing like going up close and then being 50 times as impressed. The brushwork here, a wonderful work from the Myth. And actually, this is the title here. So if we go here, so I was like, what does this title mean? I'm not a Spanish expert. Some of you, I'm sure, are. I Live and Die Alone. So a great title too here. So anyways, I think it's 40 now, edition of 30. And just a final note on this. I also thought to myself, what would this go for on Super Rare as a 1 of 1? Myth, he sold it quickly here. He sold it for 10, so he made 300 Tezos, maybe $250. If he had sold this, for example, like he should be clearly, obviously on super rare. He isn't. I'm sure that's just a matter of time. I mean, what would this go for on super rare? Like, I would think your base case is going to be an ETH, okay, which is, 4 or 5 times what he made off of this. And I'm not complaining because I'm a collector, okay, as well as an artist and all these other things. But as a collector, I'm thrilled. I can buy, give me the edition of 30. I can afford it. I think I paid 20 Tezos, so $14. I'm happy. But for myth, and look at this brilliant, almost like a woman's body here in the mask, okay? There are many mysteries here. So, so I think for the artist, though, and this brilliant, blanket, I could go on and on here. So just stunning work, deceptive. Like, I didn't see it the first time. And then I took a second look this morning and I saw it. 118 people tuned in yesterday. So thanks again. And that is a nice number, guys. That is a very nice number. I look at a lot of these Twitter spaces, I was looking at the numbers after and I was like, how is this doing? It's a nice number. So that is exciting. So thank you again. So show note, as far as the Twitter spaces next week, RuneToon is going to be on a flight. So he suggested, wisely, why don't we do Ask Joe Rogan's Dad if he's available, RuneToon's cousin. And so he reached out and Joe Rogan's dad is available. So this is wonderful because I was sort of thinking, he was saying maybe we change the time. And I thought, actually, that's not a bad idea because co-host completely changes the program in a good way, in my opinion, and reduces the pressure a lot in a lot of ways. It makes it a lot easier and funner and more relaxed for me. So anyways, Joe Rogan's dad is available, but it's even better to keep things at the same time so it's just locked in people's head. 3:30 Berlin time or 9:30 New York time a.m. on Wednesdays. We know that space is going to be there. And you don't even need the announcement. You already know. So it will continue at that same time. So thank you, RuneToon and Joe Rogan's dad, for graciously accepting, and that's going to be a ton of fun. These guys are both just like naturals on audio. Big shout out to Lily Illo for picking up this one-of-one nostalgia study, and I'm just so excited to release work. I'm going to try and release a couple of works today as well. Thank you, Lily. And we know Lily. This is part of the Nostalgia Studies series, a series I've worked on for years in various guises. So I'm enjoying just employing, variations on the non-finito here with a classic space Lego set from my youth. My sister had this one. And anyways, I already the nostalgia starts to hit. So this is Lily Illo, and we've looked at her work before. So anyway, I just wanted to give her a shout out. That was 50 Tezos, which was a nice price for me on this platform. So big shout out. And here's just a really nice one. She does some AI as well. And you see just AI distortions with the hands. A beautiful work. Unsure of the tools, Lily Illo with AI. So she's on Object. I think she's on other places too, because we've looked at her work on Twitter. Beautiful fur coat here and the colors. Like, I think by the time we're done this show, and I'm going to try and keep it to a reasonable length, I think by the time we're done this show, it seems to be accelerating everything that's happening. And it was already unbelievable that I could practically do a daily show here and not be starved for content and be able to dazzle with the latest works that you guys are putting out. Okay. Another one, and this is great too. Shilly Preston put out this work, spending the afternoon as part of a couch watching Pocobelli on YouTube, made for Adrian Pocobelli for being so supportive to even the most pretend artists. Well, Shilly, this is a beautiful AI work, and I'm not just saying that. Like, I love this work, and this painterly, this painting in the background is beautiful, and the whole thing. So I am thrilled, and this is a beautiful work. Like, I would make more in this series. It is fantastic. Midjourney and Photoshop, again, a very beautiful work. And look at this line that goes over top, the irrational line that goes over top. So it's looking good, and I'm thrilled. So thank you, Shirley Preston. A wonderful, beautiful gift from this totally awesome community. Continuing on. Another piece, homage to the show, this time from Eilay, and she's experimenting with ASCII. And so here, exploration of YouTube screenshot and ASCII generated image. So continuing with the ASCII AI tip and some interesting results here. So you see just variations. So very cool. And so thank you, Eilay. So just super cool. I don't think they were minted anywhere, but they're super cool and just really nice to see the show in art form. So you guys are the best, okay? Like there's two artworks here by Shirley Preston and Eilay kind of referencing the show. So this is the coolest, the most amazing, the most you could hope for. And I would never imagine that, and I'm thrilled. Maybe you can hope for, millions of viewers and whatever, but as I keep saying, like, it's cool. We're good. We're good. Look at this. And wait till you see more. Okay. And finally, just a quick comment from yesterday from Martin Baldwin. I enjoy watching the show, your content, and also very interesting that you cover Tezos NFTs. So this is someone who's kind of dipping their toes in the water a little bit. I've been personally collecting, and I'm looking at creating some. This was interesting to me. I feel NFTs do have a future. I personally see it like supporting artists. I'm not a big fan of the Bored Ape Yacht Club and on other such things, but for genuine art and expression, I think it's a boom. And I like just what I'm seeing. This is a boom, what's going on here. It feels like a boom. And Happy New Year to Toby Egglesfield as well. So thank you for the comments, guys. But yeah, I think it's a boom too. It's really feeling that way. And look at this, like bear market. Again, what bear market? So remember Atmo? So, and for those that don't know, Atmo is the guy who made this, genius NFT here. Let me see if I can get up. It's like cyberpunk, whatever you want to call it. We showed this about a month ago. Maybe 2 months ago, okay? So that work by the brilliant Atmo, and you can still get that for 20 Tezos. It's an edition of 140, but I mean, who wouldn't want to put that up? So, well, and to the point, all week long, my work Midnight Watcher was shown on screens on the streets of Shibuya. Good morning from Tokyo. Very happy to start the new year with such a gift. So, bear market? I don't think so, guys. Like, to me, this isn't just like keeping the momentum. This is booming. Okay, that's what I see here. Okay, now it's in Tokyo. Okay, little Sony logo underneath. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Oh, right, Super Chief Gallery. We are so proud to officially announce Super Chief Gallery NFT at the Canvas 3.0 at the Oculus at World Trade Center. Super Chief NFT will be producing over 40 NFT exhibitions in 2023, this year, as well as educational programming and community events. Our first exhibition opens January 28th. So go to the World Trade Center if you want to see some NFTs. So Tokyo, New York, and these look like they're major landmarks here, guys. So pretty interesting. Now back to the boom. So Bazaya, the one of one, and I'm not sure if I covered how much this went for. I think I covered that it was released, right? But you know who this went to? Our anonymous collector. And anonymous collector seemed pretty determined to get this piece. Like, they rarely lose an auction. Almost, yeah. If you see anonymous collector in your auction bidding, have trepidation. They also picked up this gloom tube, which I had been eyeing. And yeah, like this, we were discussing this yesterday in the Twitter spaces. It's getting to be slim pickings. out there. As remember that essay we read or heard from the hen collector? He was like the biggest collector on hen, or the second biggest on Tezos. And he said, enjoy the green pastures. The green pastures are disappearing. That being said, there is new talent coming up all the time. But, these kind of older 2021 works, the green pastures are disappearing. Look, they picked up that myth. They picked up the Bizaya. So you see just kind of a bit of a grail collector, just getting these, really kind of central Tezos artists, for lack of a better term. So anyways, speaking of booming, okay, Charles AI. What a way to start the year. This open edition has been a huge success with 585 mints, and this is at 0.069 ETH. Let me quickly do the math for you guys. You want to know how much ETH that is? 585 times 0.069. That is 40 ETH. And ETH, let's just call it 1,200 times 1,200. That is $48,438. And on Manifold, I think you get the entire thing. Like even on OpenSea or Super Rare, there's a royalty that you give to the platform. On Manifold, I think it's just 100% yours. That was my impression, having done something. So 585 mints. How much was that again? $48,000 in like a day, okay? So he was pretty smart about it too. He's using the burn function. So he's saying if you buy 3, you get in a draw to win a 1 of 1. And that stuff works, okay? I'm not huge on draws and all that sort of thing. But I mean, $48,000, maybe I'm cool with draws, right? Like pretty cool. Mark Andreessen, the famous tech guy. We're just entering an AI-powered golden age of writing, art, music, software, and science. It's going to be glorious, world historical. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think this AI art that we're covering here, just with like Charles AI and everything, yeah, I'm not covering it because I think people are going to forget about it tomorrow. All this art, even the AI stuff, it's like this is evergreen content in my universe. Stuff that people 50 years from now who wanted to know what was going on Tezos can load up these videos and be like, oh, that's what they were thinking. That's what it was like, right? So more bullish, commentary. And look at this. Unknown collector. I mean, guys, this is 48 hours. Artists of this space keep innovating and invent new forms of creating art. Meet the neo-sculpturing of Noortje Storteld. I think I even got the Dutch accent kind of almost there with my pronunciation. Created a new technique, and Unknown Co. 123 saw a new genre. From this year on, I am a neo-sculpturist. So you see the conversation, what happens when people are going back and forth. Another beautiful thing about that Twitter Spaces. Combining plaster and acrylic pieces with AI and Photoshop, LFG. So there is your result. Okay, so, I mean, novel imagery, novel sculpture, and like, I can't wait to see this go into a 3D printer. Like, is that possible? Shout out to Sabato, who came on stage yesterday and shared a lot of interesting insights. He has an open edition, a beautiful work on ETH here, and that is for 5 days. And here it is, this totally classic drawing exercise by Sabato with a nice eye and a classic kind of sci-fi space 1950s Corvette kind of thing. I am not an expert on cars. Let's see, New Chrome period drawing, autonomous Plunderburb, Roadster. So all you ETH collectors, it could be a lower edition, which would be fabulous for the collectors. And let's see, though. I mean, there's 5 days to go. Anyways, beautiful work. Look at the wheels. Again, it's one of those works that reward multiple viewings, even like the flashing of like the bulb here. So very cool. And another one by, I think this is Slave Angel. Here we go, Slave Angel. I guess you can connect your Twitter. I never did that, but I recommend if you are minting on Manifold, it's pretty fun. Frankly, it's kind of tempting with all the, like, platforms give their benefits, but I mean, it does make you start thinking, should one of ones be put on here? You could imagine a time where that could happen. I could see that being on their roadmap, where we want artists to start minting. We'll start with these open editions and move to the one-of-ones. Who knows? Anyways, 11 minted here. Very reasonable price on ETH, and just a really cool kind of bitmappy 3.5-inch diskettes falling downstairs. So classic work. And big shout out actually to Uda Museum, who collected Europa, that work I put out in that open edition the other day. And we talk about open editions and that whole process quite a bit at the beginning of yesterday's Twitter Spaces. You can, I think it's still pinned up. It might be gone by the time you watch this, but it's somewhere in my Twitter feed if you want to re-listen to it. I think Acid Boy is also going to do an open edition. I thought I heard him tweeting. I also thought this is super interesting, what he was combining here, his kind of psychedelic style with some massive, big, chunky pixels. Pretty cool. I think we have another one. Let's just see. Also by Acid Boy. And so anyways, just interesting kind of psychedelia from Acid Boy as usual. And so, yeah, he's on Super Rare Object, and I think he's going to put out an open edition. And shout out to Martin Joe, who yesterday also came on stage. His open edition is open for another 2 days, and he had some great comments also to share as someone who's been on the platform for a year and knew quite a bit. So anyways, that is still available. Big shout out. So, okay, so more news. So look at Uxie. Okay, editions of 10. He puts out this very cool work, Scrolled to Death. Let's just look at the work. I think my favorite part is the thumb of the skeleton is broken off, right? And kind of some ads, book now, don't have an account, sign up, shop now, turn on notifications. What was the title again here? Scrolled to Death, right? Like just this inundation of information on our phone. Nails the zeitgeist, this beautiful brushwork here. All around, the great contrast of the still and the moving here. Even really nicely rendered composition in terms of the fingers, how they are put. Now look at this. So he said, taking the top 10 offers, it's an edition of 10 in basically, it'll be today at like 6 p.m. or something to that effect. Look at the top 10 offers, 343 Tezos, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you're not getting this for less than 300 Tezos. So Uxie with a cool 3,000 Tezos on his edition of 10. Again, I love this multi-chain business because he doesn't need to always go to Super Rare to kind of to do well and maybe support himself on his art, right? And it's a different collectors, so I just think this is awesome. I'm super happy for him. And look at this. Okay, so there was a one of his of an older work. Okay, sold on secondary for 5,000 Tezos. A one of one, money laundering. Thank you, Tom Kassar. This is really beyond my imagination. Yeah, like what a 6 weeks Uxie is having. Yeah, and people love him. So he's a very cool, nice guy. And check this out. Okay, so continuing on. So going to his page, his activity page, look at what's going on here. So 1 hour ago, 40 Tezos, 325 on this edition of 6, an older work, 137. Right after this one went for 88, editions of 50, 300 for an older work, data flow. This, we remember this, of course, this went for 500. Now it's 1,500 if you want to pick it up. This went for 333. So, I mean, this is 10 hours ago. Okay, so, I mean, the boom times, my friends, boom times, 400 Tezos, 444. Again, this is like 13 hours ago. We're not even like into a day. And then 15 hours ago, this went for 300. So this market is exploding. There's that 5,000 Tezos, one of one, 300. That went cheap, okay? Like 300 is cheap for an Uxine these days. These guys, yeah, people don't realize what they're selling here, because these things could go very high is sort of what I'm thinking. Who knows? What do I know? Not financial or any kind of advice. So speaking of his generosity, so remember, we were looking at this work and I was mystified. I was like, how on earth did he get this kind of beam that's coming from the skull here, right? This textured pattern. Well, Uxine weighs in. Thank you, Adrian. The pattern you pointed out is actually from a lo-fi office printed graphic zine I was doing many years ago. So Uxine, from what I understand, and again, he's based in Turkey, Uk is for means three, as far as I remember when we were discussing his name when we first started talking about him, and zine. So I think he comes out of zine culture, and he's kind of, so here it is. So again, the power of traveling through the mediums, and what I really like about this, it's not obvious. He kind of like, say if I'm doing brush work and then I take a picture, it's kind of obvious that I've, made work physically and then taken a picture and then I'm employing that. What I really, really like about this is it's not obvious it's from the physical world. So it really mystifies you as a consumer and as an observer and a lover of digital art. You go, it confuses you. And I love works that kind of make me go, how on earth was this made? And that kind of seal the deal with aesthetically. Not only are you wondering how it was made, but then it's like, oh, this is beautiful. And look at just the way he's leaving, this detritus here, these kind of extras, and just not worrying about it being cut off here. There's a real nice roughness and distortion in Uxine's work. He's really good, in audio, the distortion plugin to distort a guitar. He's very good at distortion. Like I'm taking notes. I'm going, oh, this is really cool. Because what he's doing, in my opinion, what's starting to happen when you start messing around with these distortions, and even like the white that comes in, you start to get texture. It's almost the equivalent of painterly textures, okay, but digitally created. So no small matter there. It's gorgeous, and he's being rightly rewarded for it. And just another, playing with these distortions again, just a cool gif. Like he's on fire. And I think for him, it's just him being himself and natural. So I think there's a lot of legs. Look at this. This has a lot of legs. Look at this, right? I mean, pretty cool is all I have to say. So great to see, and big shout out. He was in the Twitter Spaces yesterday, which was awesome. So was mech.txt here. And speaking of boom times, Strawberry. So a one of one. I was mentioning in an earlier episode, like I wonder what a one of one of mech.txt would go for. Well, now we know. Went for 300 Tezos on Object in an auction. So, was there a bidding war? Just a couple of bids at the end. Just a couple of bids. I mean, it was pretty high for a one of one of mech.txt. I think that's I don't know if that's an all-time high, but nice work is what I thought. Very nice work. And just looking at his market, you're seeing these artists that are kind of like these, for lack of a better term, these go-to artists. You're really seeing the market tighten up. Like there is a real demand. Again, is this the X copy effect? Maybe it's just people who are bored during the bear market and see Tezos at 75 cents and are going, if not now, when? So anyways, and when I say go-to artists, we can all be go-to artists, okay? Like that's, so it's not to privilege anybody else over anybody other. A lot of these people have come out of nowhere in the last 6 months, okay? Sometimes less time, okay? Or have been kind of working on their craft. I think Uxine was on a year ago. And then all of a sudden hits his stride, 6 months in, all of a sudden really hits where people are just like, boom. Okay, so that can be any of us. Okay, so heads up there. This is traveling through the mediums. Guys, 48 hours. Regenaria approached me a couple of weeks ago to ask permission on translating my pixels to cross-stitch. So this is mech.txt, who we're just looking at. Thought of sharing you all the awesome progress she made. Translation turned out it's a lot harder, 147 rows to go, so I guess that's the person making it. Thank you very much, Regenaria. But, I mean, when this is finished, when this is made, like, not to put everything in financial terms, but what is that worth? It's kind of back to our myth, like, what would that myth go for as a one of one on super rare? Right? I could see 4 ETH, I could see 8 ETH, right? And so green pastures are still here for us. Enjoy the green pastures. So anyways, very, very interesting. Again, to traveling through the mediums, beautiful work by mech.txt. Here's some more. So someone was referencing some of mech.txt's work on Sol. So just, looking at his other, again, different blockchain, kind of trying different series out, slightly different style. So just really interesting to see. And they have an art contest, and the winner will be able to purchase Getting Back Home for 500 Ash. So interesting. Anyway, I just thought it was a very good-looking piece. Hasdrubal Waffle. There was an auction yesterday. It was too late in the night for me. I would have stayed up longer to try and win it. I put in like 6 Tezos or something for some of these works. I missed them the first time. Oh, I guess it was January 4th. There's editions of 5. Hasdrubal Waffle is a acquired taste for me. For me, I didn't understand it. At least it never clicked for me until really, first there was the Zubaz and those sweater works, but I was like, okay, I have a couple of works from that artist. That works in the museum in my mind. That's good enough. Wasn't sure. But as I kept returning, and as you look at so many digital images, this is what happens in contemporary art to a certain degree. When you see so much, you start to really appreciate the experimentalism and trying different things out, and to really go, oh, it's not easy to be irrational and to do these kinds of things, like this strange figure here, this weird, dotted frame in purple, doing a lotto as a subject matter. So I would have loved to have picked this up, but I had to go to bed. So Ile put in, so who did this go to? It went to someone called Fangers for 12. So pretty nice. Edition of 5, really nice low editions that Hasdrubal. So I'm really becoming, I've bought a few works on the secondary there. This was another one, which unfortunately it was 5 a.m. for me, so I couldn't pick these up. But again, it's this consistent experimentalism that all of a sudden it just clicked. All of a sudden I was persuaded in kind of a profound way where I was like, oh, I want this work. So very excited about what's going on here. And again, just kind of speaks to this. Boom, this one went to Ile for 10. So nice snag, Ile. Again, just really original stuff. This is another one. I won't stay too long here because of the flashing, but just experimental. Again, you might say, what's going on here? This looks like a kid's drawing. It's like, there's a lot more going on than you might think. And sometimes it's sort of like the best music albums take time. It's kind of like an acquired taste, the best wine. Sometimes the best things in life take a little time to understand, right? A little bit of sophistication. And sometimes it's just a repeated viewing is what'll create that. So now Human Kernel, I was in Hasdrubal Waffle's collection there, taking a look and found some other interesting stuff. I think he picked up, oh no, this was someone else. So there's a couple of these portraits here. So 17 Tezos for this really interesting experimental one of one here. So, almost like those fuzzy pixels, kind of has a slight Santiago vibe. I mean, it's just this person's own thing. But again, the fill here with this, what I want to call digitalia, and the green lips, the blue ears. There are so many like irrational decisions here and then it all holds together. You go, only in art would this ever occur and kind of make sense. So forever is going to start tonight. Time is an illusion, but dancing can be real. So Human Kernel, a new discovery thanks to Hasdrubal Waffle. This is another one by Human Kernel, and he's doing this like anti-PFP project. So every one of these is kind of like a weird, different profile picture. And I think Hasdrubal picked up this one, yeah, for 16. So going for pretty reasonable prices for these edgy, one-of-one, unique digital artworks. So keeping you on the bleeding edge here on this program, courtesy of Hasdrubal Waffle. Just being magnetized towards that notification button there. Another work from the collection from someone called Pony. Microsoft Paint Online. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Just interesting, right? So back to this experimentation, just interesting. Showdown at noon between Pikachu and Mr. Blockface. So this is what I love about digital art as well, as being able to go, and we can go through each one of these people's collections and then see what strikes us. And it's just the discovery process on object is almost unparalleled. And I'd say it exists on OpenSea as well, but on OpenSea, the biggest problem is there's no notification. I don't know why you can't follow people on OpenSea, and I've mentioned this before. I don't know why. Like they do have it on Super Rare, but like it keeps me loading up object first thing in the morning, just like it uses the Facebook method, but the content for me is kind of way more exciting. So this is my Facebook object. Fabric 2K with just an interesting work. I think I found this in Ilay's collection. So again, just sort of, peeking in on what other people are looking at. So just an interesting still life from Fabric 2K, buy for a Tezos, edition of 15. Might have to pick that up pronto. This was interesting too. So looks clearly like a Edmarola, but on this, I think this was also in Hasdrubal Waffle's collection. There's all sorts of gems there. Edition of 1000. And you see that kind of signature colors here and the signature kind of bitmappy textures. So a cat on a bed, and I'll just show you, this is the page. So it looks like, remember how Limbo had this kind of secret page? I don't know if this is meant to be a secret page, but it's cool to discover it. And also there is a tweet. So this is what's going on. And I think I saw this one online. So on Twitter. Now, Edmarola also weighed in because we discussed this work right here that I was saying kind of had a bit of an Henri Rousseau feel to it with the cheetah in the middle of kind of a nature scene. So he actually responded, Anka eating hunter appreciation, one theme, inspired by our new president in Brazil and the historical presence of First Nations in the federal government. We hope for a change in environmental politics more. And so that's the theme. Technique. This is super interesting. Made in Procreate using the painting brushes, small details added later in Aseprite. Can never pronounce the name of this software. So again, made in Procreate using the painting brushes, small details added later in Aseprite. And I'm a huge fan of what I call exporting and what I think everybody else would call exporting. On the phone, I usually use multiple apps when I'm working on the phone, depending on what I'm trying to do. And exporting is just such a powerful tool using different, because Procreate's going to create certain kind of brushes and Aseprite is going to create other kinds of textures. So combining the two is a brilliant idea. And as we were wondering with that opening myth work, was he combining Procreate and Microsoft Paint there? I don't know. But wouldn't that be interesting? So this idea of combining apps and software, powerful, okay? To keep it under now this is super interesting here. To keep it under the pixel art umbrella, I use canvases between 128 and 700 pixels, mostly 256. And again, this is kind of one of the first things you have to deal with when you're making pixel art. The way I ensure the size of your canvas, the way I ensure every pixel is visible and important in the composition. So here we see some of that diagonal pixels, right? Pixel textures and work. And continuing, to me, the definition of pixel art. So we got another definition of pixel art courtesy of Edmarola. a prolific and interesting experimental pixel artist. So my definition of pixel art is that every pixel can be identified, has meaning, an eye or a flower maybe, in this case, a blood. And I think he has more here. Okay, so no, that is, so, and I thought about this and I was like, this is an interesting definition, isn't it? His definition of pixel art is that every pixel can be identified. And remember, my definition that I was working with was digital art made with a square brush. So at first I was like, is this a better definition? And what I ended up thinking was, this is my analysis. Agree or disagree, feel free to leave a comment. I'm totally curious. This was my issue with this definition of pixel art when I kind of stood back and thought about it. This is subjective, that every pixel can be identified. Well, how do we decide the size? Like at what point, like for me, what I might identify as a pixel might not be the same for you. Like I take his point, the spirit of his point, which is, it's kind of got a chunkier feeling, pixel art. It's an interesting definition, but I just wonder, when I say digital art made with a square brush, it's pretty objective in the sense that, okay, is it made with a square brush? And, is it digital? Right here, every pixel can be identified is subjective. So I take the spirit of the point, but that would be my concern with it. It's not as objective, but I love the definition though. This is also another, I'd say, subjective definition. It has meaning, an eye or a flower maybe, in this case a blood. So my question then, and this is so interesting for Ed Marola especially, is, well, what if you're making abstraction? Like, does this have meaning? This abstraction here. That'd be my question. Does each of these pixels have meaning? And I think that's, and I would say here he's working with abstraction. I would say in a weird way, it's just texture. In a sense, it's not meaningless, but it's not a flower. It's not a representation of something. So anyways, I'd love to hear if you guys disagree. I'm interested in the right and the best definition we can come up with, and that's the funnest thing for me. So I'm happy to be kind of wrong and whatever, but these are the thoughts that came through my head, which I think is just interesting to continue this kind of, what is the definition of pixel art? And to get what I'd consider some of the most sophisticated pixel artists in the world, Ed Marola, weighing in. The base brushwork is textured with Procreate. In Aseprite, I add the diagonal lines to mimic fabric. In detail, the diagonal passes Pocobelli talks in his latest video. Thank you. Anytime. A tip, please. So here we see the diagonal lines, and again, that sounds like it's made in Aseprite, as far as I understand. And this is also super interesting. So again, the sharing here, we're discussing this on the spaces. This is fascinating. Right? I've been using a lot of sharpen effect to mimic the volume and texture of paint. So almost like an outrageous use of sharpening to get that. It's almost like over sharpened, because anybody that uses Photoshop a lot will know that when you over sharpen, the edges turn almost white, right? And that seems to be, there's like a strong sharpen to just create a painterly effect here. The texture to mimic the volume and texture of paint. So we were looking at uxing and the distortions and how that's creating texture. Now we're finding more. I mean, again, I'm just so excited and bullish at what's going on here. Dan Control, the Internet Explorer, is now available. Buy for $5 and sold out for $1. I missed that. That would have been a beautiful purchase. And you can buy it now for $5. And awesome work here. Big fan. As soon as I saw it, it felt right. This is also really cool. This ends in 48 minutes, this auction. Currently for 0.15. This is on Foundation, also Dan Control. Awesome concept here. Generations and the generations of cell phones and using previous works, or at least I think the Nokia's from a previous work, and maybe the cell phone too, making a really, really, really cool work. Again, this is the sort of thing you put really big on a museum wall and people go, and with the killer title like Generations and concept and so simple and this nice little gradient which kind of signs the piece, Stand Control, people like, this is persuasive. This is impressive. I'm so glad I paid my 15 euros to go to your museum, right? Now, Antonio Loves, he has a 1 of 1, and he sold it for a nice price to, they call me, I think this is Chris Ostocic, if I'm pronouncing that right, who is I don't know if he's a curator on Super Rare, but he helped onboard a lot of people. Myth would be a great one, Chris, if you can help in that regard. Anyways, Antonio Loves is a newer artist, and he's putting out some very interesting pieces. So Chris, as far as I understood the tweet and remember right, picked this up for a pretty penny, 225. So pretty good for a new artist, is what I would say, and very cool work. Angels, Saints, Prophets, or Anima Ragionevole e Beata. Okay, so 4,000 by 4,000, interesting. Just a nice work I saw on Twitter. The Blind Imagination. What will we see when we're blind? What is happening in the wicked night? Wondering what's hidden inside. Where's Homer? Buy for a Tezos 50. So just kind of an interesting work that just kind of had a bit of a different feel to it. There's a Pepe there as well. So just interesting. What was the name of that artist? Tetoys 90. Tetoys 90. Minta with a new work and a couple of Pepes here too. And this is a collaboration between Minta and EdgeQ, who does those great trading cards and who also makes music. Let me see if I can get the audio here. Oh, sorry. Now I'm going to have to do some gymnastics here. Stop that. There we go. And it looks like, what makes Minta happy? What platform is this from? It kind of looks like Twitter, but I'm not sure. Anyways, you get the point. So there's Minta with some Pepes. So just nice, cool, like, culture is happening here, my friends. Culture is underway. So buy for 4, edition of 25. Congrats to both of you. Very cool. Speaking of getting onboarded at Super Rare, Rosaccio. This just came out on January 3rd. So stoked to drop my first artwork on Super Rare. I'm not sure if we already mentioned this or not. Again, I get confused because I think this came out on Tuesday, so I don't think we've mentioned this. So out on Super Rare, Rosaccio, and more info soon. So we're thrilled to see that. Awesome artist. Onboarded by ONBD, Create, Curate, Connect. So shout out to ONBD. Nice work. I'd point you to the myth. Santiago with a huge file, 10,000 by 14,000 pixels. And he just put this out, edition of 25. So again, if you can't afford the Super Rare piece, you can get a work for $5 here, 7 Tezos on the Tezos blockchain. So anyways, Santiago with a really interesting abstraction. Shapes from GIMP painting made with scans of physical paintings. Okay, so just there's interesting, more experimentation. Again, this kind of like, this show is a tour through a museum with new work every day, practically. Rustic digital art, playing with the Super Marios. Like, you know what I like about this? Hasdrubal, Waffle, Santiago, Oxine. We're getting some pretty sophisticated art here, guys. This isn't just like quote unquote pixel art and pretty pictures here. A lot of this work is like what I'd consider very sophisticated art, you know? So and the reason I mention that is for a grassroots kind of folk art movement to a certain degree. This just came out of nowhere, this Object Tezos thing. It's just a platform, no gatekeepers or anything. This isn't like the clip art that we saw in the 2000s when you'd go to an internet art site and that was just open to anybody. And generally it was just like, kind of not stuff that you'd consider particularly sophisticated. We're in a whole new world here. Like, this is maturing. There is zero question. And if you have a question, like, watch this show again, okay? Look at this, Mario's. So, La Pampa. So I'm not sure what that means. Part of that cloud period. So again, playing with the Mario Brothers, cropped Mario Brothers guy. Again, playing with just these irrational things and making compositions out of it. Here's another one. I lucked out and picked this up. Early, I woke up at 6:30 and it was the first thing I saw, and I ran to pick up a Fidenza Mario. So another one of one, and yeah, just buying these for pennies on the dollar, guys. I love it. I love it. I love it. So nice work there. Glitchtown Arcade he posted this Nintendo Glitch ROM. So interesting colors, cool fragmentation and everything. Actually, this is available on Object. I'm not going to open it just because I don't want to kill the mic, because I have some pretty heavy... Santiago's super heavy file could kill my mic, and then this show won't get out till like 7 p.m. So anyways, but I have another work by Glitchtown Arcade, which is loaded up. And this is a collaboration with someone called Paper, who I'd never heard of. So let's just see if we can get this working. Yeah, we have a lot open here. There we go. Pretty cool. Is this a modern day music video you could do with Nintendo Glitch ROM? And how cool would that be if you still watched, MTV, and then you start seeing this on the screen? I mean, MTV has turned into, I don't even know if it still exists. Like, I don't have a TV. But it turned into reality shows like at least 10 years ago. There was no more music videos, but these guys, we're talking about the rebirth of the single, I could see like MTV coming back, as One Bit Necro put it, NFT TV or NFTV, right? Maybe someone should just start that network. More interesting thoughts. So cool work from Glitchtown Arcade. Edition of 10, buy for 13, collaboration with Paper. And we're almost done here. And another interesting digital painting with a very cool title from Benta, Delete World. Look at this, kind of these sampled brushes, interesting bold textures, okay? Like, this is some pretty sophisticated digital painting that we're seeing. Buy for $6.66, buy for $5, edition of 10. So there are still green pastures out there. What is Ayana, also known as the Uda Museum, who's been doing really well, put out this very nice work. Again, AI and painting here. So just very good with the AI as well. Like as I've learned, like it's not easy. And again, I recommend people read the user guide, say for Midjourney, pick one for starters, read the user guides, and then maybe you subscribe for a month. That's what I'm doing. And then on my little private server, I can do all sorts of experiments. It's a ton of fun. Good morning, What is Ayana? So GM to What is Ayana? And thank you again for picking up Europa. That is awesome. More AI work, this time again from Marina Amadova, who is becoming a regular here. Just again, the color and everything, interesting composition. Great title, The Connection of Generations. This is a great honor and joy. It was collected again by ETH.co. So the boom times continue here, and let's just see a few more. Fake Smile, who we've been seeing on Twitter a little bit there, giving a lot of comments, and it's great, with a pretty nice work. AI artwork, Angel Drowning by the Loud. Interesting title too, so just an interesting experiment here from Fake Smile. So shout out to Fake Smile. Great to hear from you, and welcome, because I think you might be newer. If not, anyways, cool work. And then finally, some works by Mr. Shapeless. So this work here that was just minted on Super Rare went for $751, so 0.6 ETH, which is pretty good. And so congrats to Mr. Shapeless. And I think it was a pretty quick auction too. And here are a few more, just some landscapes, almost Dali clouds here. Yeah, I mean, really, you can tell a Mr. Shapeless as soon as you look at it. Interesting variation of the shapes on the sky on this one with these lines. Again, back to this idea of an irrational output on using AI. I mean, the irony of ironies, isn't it? This rational computer is creating things we would never dream of making. It's acting more irrationally than we almost ever could. That is the delight almost of AI, and here's another one. And so, beautiful work with even getting the reflection there on the snow. So I don't know how Mr. Shapeless is pulling that off, but pretty impressive. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show. Keep it up, everybody. That was amazing. And until next time, take care.